Check. Testing. We're good? Yep. Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Three is roll call school board members. Everybody's present. Brought his absence. Should let me know ahead of time, but we do have a quorum. So let's move on to 4.0. Communications and reports. Superintendent Colness, if you want to give your enrollment update.
Yeah, we'll start off here with enrollment at the end on October 1st. Our K through 12 enrollment was 1,848 students, grades K through 12. And then we are up to 2,005 total students when you add your preschoolers. That number is lower than we've been in several years. So, there are some concerns there. We've seen some transition and we've talked about that in previous meetings. So we need to make sure that we're adjusting and our staff accordingly. But right now that is the number we are at. So. Before we go on to the finance report, I think I'd like to do green wave recognition since Coach Devine is here already. And I know she has a busy night down in the gym with home volleyball and cancer awareness night. So, but we would, Brian, if you'd come on up and help out too. But Coach Paula Devine has been coaching here for several years, I will say. And she was, yeah, several. And actually, she used to be the head basketball coach, and she picked up a few wins against me back in the day. So that's why I quit. But anyway, Coach Devine reached a milestone in her career and had her 400. The team earned a 400th win in her head coaching career while in Crookston playing in the tournament. So we'd like to congratulate Coach Devine tonight and give her a big round of applause.
So before we do that, Coach Devine, you're not going to be here for the rest of the meeting. But you'll see that she is also retiring effective next week. I was going to recognize it in my comments, but since you're here, on behalf of myself and the school board, I think your letter says 36 years of service, but you're in your 37th. So we're going to call it, we're calling it 37. So thank you for the impact that you've had on lots and lots of kids that have come through these doors. So the job well done. So thank you.
You're right in the middle there. Brian, you decide. Everybody ready? Give her one more big round of applause.
luck tonight.
Thank you. You don't have a square, right? All right. All right. So I'm glad Paula was able to get down. So that's nice. Amanda, I'll turn it over to you for the finance report.
All right, so I have a couple comments for September. So on the budget to actual information, our revenues are up a little bit over the prior year. And a big portion of that is just a timing difference. Our general education aid is based off of student estimates. And so they just pay us percentages of that. So we have received a little bit more general education aid than we did in the prior years. But overall, that will just be a timing difference. And then you'll also see our local and other activity is up quite a bit over the prior year. And a lot of that is, there's some interest that we've received a lot more interest through today than we did last year. And we also had like the sale of the equipment that we had for about $17,000. So kind of one-time things. And then our activity revenues picked up a little bit from where we were in the past. So some minor things that are contributing to that change. And then on the expenditure side, on the purchase services line, we are down quite a bit. And a lot of that was just due to contractor repairs that we did in the prior year that just weren't contracted out. We might have done things ourselves. So it's just kind of a matter of where it ended up in the list. And then the supplies item is quite a bit lower than where we were at. And a lot of that is timing. Some of it are things that we just won't do this year. Like last year, we had $128,000 at this point in time for textbooks. But also last year we paid $123,000 for computers, but we just haven't gotten, I think we received that bill just the other day. So timing issues on those fronts. And there's some other things like smart panels that we bought last year and the equipment in this room. So some of them are timing differences and some are just things that we won't have again. On the smaller funds, just had a couple comments. Food services revenues are up, and that is mainly just due to parents adding dollars to their student lunch accounts this year for lunches being not free anymore. And then the debt service revenue is also up over the prior year, and that is due to the shift of using LTFM money on our for our bonds. So when we are getting property tax dollars, we get those dollars 3 times a year, but LTFM, we get it throughout the year. So again, just a timing difference of when the money comes to us. So overall, our general fund is up quite a bit, but that is mainly, as I talked about, due to timing differences. Other than that, I didn't have any other things written down on the budget to actual. And on the cash or the treasurer's report, the only thing I had written down is that our cash position is up a little bit from where we were in the past, but that again is just due to those timing differences. Any questions?
All right, thanks, Amanda.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. All right. Let's move on to 4.3, administration and department heads. Superintendent Colness, might as well start with your report.
Yeah, and then Green Wave recognition. Congratulations, to Coach Divine. I'm glad she was able to attend tonight. Just a reminder on the December school board meeting, and you'll make a motion and approve that tonight, but we have to have the truth and taxation portion of that meeting in December, and that will be on December 12th, but that truth and taxation part cannot start until 6 o'clock. So we can start the board meeting at 5:30, but then we'll have to transition into the taxing portion of the meeting. Just a reminder there. Also, the school board election, that is on November 8th. And then the school board does meet the following Monday, I mean, November 14th, because we have a 10-day window in there where we will have to canvass the votes. So we'll have to make sure that we have that November 14th meeting. So a reminder there. The school district audit, it's still a work in progress. I know that the auditors would like to come in November and give their report, whether it be remote or in person, but Ide Bailey is planning to attend in November and to give the final results of the fiscal year 22 audit. Also, 2 weeks from tonight, we have scheduled a World's Best Workforce and State of the District School District meeting in the PAC. That'll begin at 6:30. There are things with Title I, with World's Best Workforce, with Achievement Integration, and we want to blend them all together. I'm planning to give a State of the District report, talk about where we're at financially, where we're at enrollment wise, projects, just to give a 10,000-foot overview of how things are looking in the district. Some goals that we have been working on, academic achievement, et cetera. And then Soraya and Jennifer and Erica and several of the principals are also planning to report that night. It'll be after supper, so we'll provide some, snacks and things, but no meal that night, and because we don't really know how many people will be attending. It'll be a good chance for people to get some insight on what's going on with the district and also to provide feedback, especially for our title program, our achievement integration, and our world's best workforce. So if you could, we may need a school board meeting that night at 5:30, and then that would follow. It would not be an official meeting. It's just basically an open forum. And so just mark that on your calendars, please. Substitute teacher compensation rates. And I think just like every business out there, we are no different. And it's really been a struggle to find and fill, teaching positions, paraprofessional positions, bus drivers, et cetera. So I did meet with the building principals last Friday, and we were talking about, are there ways that we could help, offset some things and hopefully provide more compensation in order to help fill some of those voids. Our number one thing, we'd always like to have substitutes come in from outside of the building, just because that relieves, when we move people within the building, it opens up, it adds more pressure other places. So we did put together a proposal, but I did send that over to one of the union negotiators that I'd asked them for input and get some feedback there. Not asking for any action tonight, but basically we're looking at some compensation rates for if you sub internally during your prep period. Also for long-term substitute teachers. Currently, we pay $145 a day for the first 20 days, and then they go on contract at step one for the 21st day and beyond, looking at adjusting that slightly and seeing what other districts in the area have been doing. I think we can make some adjustments there. We'd be more competitive. And then, but always our first priority is to try to find substitutes from outside of our buildings if we can. But so no action on that tonight, but I just wanted to get that in your hands, and also shared it with Mark. So he'll, you guys will be talking about that, and we would like to, make sure we're trying to treat everybody as fair as we can. And we know that it's tough times and we need help. So other thing would be robotics coordinator position. Brian and we talked about this last meeting. No action is required here tonight, but we did put together a recommendation for creating a new position. We know that program has just really grown, and it's a great program for our kids. And right now we have 3 coaches that are all compensated the same, and it's basically out of, I think it's level 7 of the extracurricular compensation salary schedule. And we feel that the one particular person is really the coordinator and does all the planning and extra, the travel plans, the fundraising, et cetera. So we put together a proposal that would create a new position that would compensate that person at a higher level on the extracurricular salary schedule. So no action required tonight. I'm just putting that in your hands so you can look it over, and we'd be asking for action on adding that position at the next school board meeting. So that is all I have, unless you have some questions.
Questions for the superintendent? Moving on, let's go to the next report. I got Director of Teaching and Learning. So Soraya, I think you said you're going to sit in for Erica.
I am. Erica actually sent a video to share with you guys. Would you like to do that? Okay.
Yeah, please.
We'll take that, and she's gonna kind of go over what she
So the sheet from Erica, everybody, is this little purple one in front of you.
All right, thank you, Jason.
Yeah, yeah.
Just going through mine.
More to this, but we are going to operate. And then
I don't think it's gonna work.
We may have to share that another time then.
We'll share that later.
You want, you want to just come up to the mic and give us a quick overview?
Let's put all that effort in. I thought we should try. Emailed it to me.
So Erica did make a handout for you just so you have an idea of some of the things that she is working on in her new position. Some of those things include taking that learning that we had with Ricky White last year and getting that implemented into the classroom. So right now she's been working with teachers, trying to find rooms where they're ready for her to come in and infuse that pedagogy that we were learning about with Ricky. So she's been working on that. Another piece of that is she's been meeting with a senior group here at the high school and educating those kids around some of the cultural teachings, but also helping them with college applications and some of those kinds of things as well. She has a whole curriculum that we had purchased back when we first hired Erica that she's working on with them. So that's really exciting and providing those kids mentorship. So the other evening when we had our American Indian Parent Advisory Council meeting, a couple of the high school kids came up and helped with that. So that was really great. She also has started a culture group at South Point that will be meeting during like a lunchtime, a lunch bunch. And she's doing AI teachings and then some of the American Indian artwork with those kids as well. And then, of course, those monthly meetings that we have with parents to engage them and to help plan our 3 events that we have each year. So upcoming in November, we will have or in October, excuse me, it's coming up, our American Indian Halloween powwow. So they've been planning that, getting that ready and to go. And then we always have an event in February. It's typically been a career night, but we're adjusting that because we haven't had a really great turnout and it hasn't been super engaging. So we're changing that event. And then our graduation. And Erica's been working really hard with the Grand Forks Public Schools to build that bridge so that we have that united advisory council together, both Grand Forks and East Grand Forks. So Erica also serves on the board in Grand Forks on the American Indian Parent Advisory Council there. So we have a nice bridge and we have some opportunities, I think, for our kids that are going to be really positive and exciting. And with that said, that's just, a part of her job. The other piece of her job then is the achievement integration. And really that's a large chunk of her job. And that's not just American Indian children, that's all kids, right? And really that focus on students who are having an achievement gap, who need extra assistance. So one of the number one things she's been working on is getting a pilot in place, and this is part of our our achievement integration plan, is to provide high dosage tutoring to our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who are who have some gaps in learning. So we have 50 seats for this pilot to see how it runs and what it'll do for our kids and what it'll provide them. And so we've been working on that piece to get that in place. So those are a few of her duties that she's been working on, and we're seeing some good progress. Alongside that, there is a contract for Ricky White again to run another cohort 1. When we met with our new teachers this this fall, which we have a large number of new teachers, this would be a nice roll in for them as well, and anybody else who didn't get a chance to take it to have the offering from Ricky, which again was another part of our achievement plan to keep this ongoing, the learning. Ricky would also help us with Title VI, which is a federal grant, which will bring in more money. And we actually do have 10 kids who are enrolled members of their tribes that we have the paperwork on. So we are able now to apply. So Ricky's going to help us out with that. And he does such a nice job as Master of Ceremonies. If you guys have ever come out to any of the events, he just does a beautiful job. And that really is a parent request that he be involved with those. So he'll help MC those. He also helps us with our Department of Ed, our planning, and creating the plan that we submit to them. And that is really helpful. The evenings when the parents meet, part of those evenings is they bring their children. And we have roughly about 10 to 13 kids that are showing up. So that's a great thing, but it also adds another addition to what we're doing with our planning, to plan for those evenings. And so if Erica can work with that group while Ricky's working with the parents, it's really helpful because a lot of those kids need some specialized opportunities for learning. Let's see, did I miss anything? And then we'll keep ongoing educating parents to get in those Title VI forms as well.
Thanks, Saraya. Any questions for Saraya? I have one, and maybe Saraya, this is for you, or I see Jill back there, but when we talk about the tutor program for the A&I with 50 seats, how many are filled?
Right now, we don't have any filled right now, Brandon. We're gonna see where kids are at
Okay.
in the, at that December time, and then we'll start filling.
Not starting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
How are those invitations gone out? Or is it based just strictly on state assessments, or is it a combination of state assessments and grades, or what's our process there?
It would be, I mean, we're really looking at those, our goal overall is to help improve a level on the state assessment. But I think we'll be looking at for input from staff as well as where they're falling, like with their STAR assessment.
Maybe some more
Right.
downward trends.
Right.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks, Ray. Appreciate it. And you
Yep.
can just, if you can email the board that video if you want.
Okay, I will. I will. Okay,
Email
thanks so much.
Email Nancy, and Nancy, we just put it on the site.
Okay, thanks so much. Sorry about that.
All right, next, let's see. Still in those reports, looks like Jennifer, you got a report for us. You want to come up to the mic, please?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening.
Wait. Here.
Okay, there we go. Good evening, everybody. While Brian gets the slides up, I'm here to give a report on our multi-tiered system of support. So I did a little infograph for you here. If you go to present mode on that, Brian, that'd be great. This is part of the reason why you hired me. with the 4 other jobs I have, but this is the one I'm here to talk to you about tonight. So when you think about multi-tiered systems of support, I want you to think about it like a general large umbrella in the East Grand Forks Public Schools, and everything we do falls underneath that umbrella. So the graphic in front of you underneath shows, but because we're trying to get this cleaned up, this is like a preliminary draft. If you look on the infographic, it talks about family engagement. So really, what are we doing around engaging our families? It talks about tiered interventions. So what are we doing academically, behaviorally, with our social emotional learning practices to intervene with kids? We talk about the world's best workforce. So what are we doing to make sure kids are ready for kindergarten, that they're reading in 3rd grade at reading level, that they are, graduating, that they're career and college ready? That's all underneath this framework. And that we're building those school and community partnerships, which we've made some pretty good gains with that in the last year. And then when you think about the overarching mental health of all our students, so how do we do that, and what do we do? So this is our large system. Next slide, please. So when you think about it, it's not a thing, it's a system. It's how we comprehensively think about what we do, how we care for kids, how we intervene. And it focuses on learning at all levels. Okay, so one of the things that we've struggled with in the past is really using data to inform our decision making. So when we have a student that might be struggling academically, or if we have a student that might be struggling behaviorally, what information are we using to make decisions? Are we making informational decisions on emotion? Are we making them based on data? So I'm really trying to be more robust in our data decision making around what we do and how we help kids when they're struggling academically or in other areas. Next slide. I have formed a district MTSS team that has done a lot of work over the last year. This group is responsible for making sure that we are doing a system implementation pre-K, which we are starting there, but primarily K through 12. So we're starting to have system conversations about what's happening academically, system conversations about what's happening in the area of behavior, system conversations on what we're doing for preventative measures. And the only way you do that is you get the leaders in all those areas to be a part of your team, right? Next slide, please. So that team, then, this is the responsibilities of that team to make sure that this conceptual idea of MTSS is not something that just comes and goes. It's not a fad. This is a research-based way of setting about doing good system management and good educational decision-making at the district level, okay? So that team is responsible for doing that. Next slide. If you look at this, when we think about what the Minnesota Department of Education, people can say what they want about them, but I'll tell you what, the things that we were starting to do last year, they are now asking, encouraging, asking all the districts across the state. So we're ahead of the game. And we're also involved, I'll talk to you a little bit about the cohort that we're involved in through the Minnesota Department of Education, but what they talk about is how we really implement well. So you can see that those 5 things there, we have an infrastructure that supports improvement. So we just came from a lengthy professional development meeting. So professional development for our educators, responding to their need, but doing things to improve our educational practices should not be something that happens over here. It needs to be making sense underneath our framework, right? Our community and family engagement, we know that's incredibly important. We're starting to do some more robust things around attendance and conversations, breaking down barriers, that kind of thing. Multi-levels of instruction. So when you think about instruction, there's 3 tiers. Tier 1 is what everybody gets. Tier 2 is what you do when somebody's having a difficult time, maybe not able to meet the standard. Same with behavior. And tier 3 is when we really, really need that intensive intervention. A lot of times people think, oh, well, that means kids go into special ed. That's really not how the system should work. We should be able to intervene and intervene well, so we can move kids along where we're not just moving kids into our special education system. So that's that multi-level instruction. And then using assessments and using them appropriately. So a lot of times teachers talk about assessments and they're not making sense, or we don't have information to read them. So we really have put in a robust way to make sure our assessments are making sense to our teachers. If our teachers, they don't feel it's worthy and they can't understand it, or they don't have the time to think about what we can do with it, there's no point in doing it, right? So making sure people know how to use the assessments and that it's informing our practice as just one piece of that pie, but that's important. And then you heard me talk about data to make decisions. So we're making decisions based on facts, based on intervention. When you think about academic intervention, should be minimum 6 weeks. It shouldn't be, oh, we tried it for a day and it doesn't work, so maybe they have a learning disability. We really need to be thinking, slow it down, system, robust practices. So that's what MTSS does for us. Next slide, please. This is what we've done in terms of in East Grand Forks Public Schools over the last year. We've really tried to bridge the gaps between all these things happening, all good things, but not under one system. Consistency with that leadership under Mike and all the principals and the director of teaching and learning to really get us all on the same page. Making sure when we have those early release times for our professional learning communities that they are using that time. They know how to use that time and it's beneficial to them as educators, but also knowing how are we going to produce a product out of this time together and how is this going to inform our teaching practices? And so really being intentional about that. Again, some of the feedback from our educators is, hey, we should put all our music teachers together too. We should put our mental health team together during that time so that we can work on our goals and our strategies. So we've changed that for this year. So we have all the specialists working in their own professional learning communities. We have those early releases. And also we're being really intentional about how we do our staff development days. That was evident this year due to teacher feedback. We changed things around. We were allowed them more time to get ready for the year. We had building time. And then one of the other requests they had is that we do more alignment. So if let's say I'm teaching at the senior high and I want to come over and see you, we do things at similar times. So for instance, being able to have lunch at the exact same time. Again, building that community. And so all this is driven by the feedback from our staff, which is really important because that was one of the things that seemed to be disconnected. Next slide, please. Just professional learning communities. You know, you have to remember educators are the only folks that are in their setting with the clients they serve all the time. You know, people wonder, well, why do you need this time away from students? Why do we have early releases? Why do we need professional development? This is a really critical time for our educators to have time to really think about how they improve their teaching and their learning, to think about what research says and what drives what we do, and really be reflective about how we're going to do it. You really can't do that when you're with students. So it really needs to be that separate time. So we really are focusing on our PLCs, which is very, very important. Next slide. These are the big questions, you know, these are the big questions. What do we want all students to know? How are we going to know if they learn it? What are we going to do when they don't learn it? And then how can we extend for those who maybe have additional gifts? And those are the questions that we're asking ourselves during that PLC process. And that takes a lot of time to go through the standards, to unpack those, to figure out what the essential learning outcomes are. But that's the purpose of that time together. And that's not done in isolation. It's all part of that big umbrella we are talking about. Next slide. So social emotional learning, okay? When we think about how does this fit under our MTSS umbrella, we just had a very, very intense discussion. Something I've noticed throughout my year here in East Grand Forks is we talk a lot about the mental health of our young people. We talk a lot about what the deficits are of our young people. We have to be talking about what the skills are that we need to be assisting them in, okay? So social emotional learning is skill-based. So when you think about the skill of, next slide, the skill of, let's say, self-awareness, okay? Let's just think about what is self-awareness. Self-awareness is knowing and understanding how you're feeling and how that affects how you behave. So when you go into the office, if you're angry about something and you're not aware of it, you might come off very short to a coworker, right? So all these skills are simply giving kids the tools to interact in a productive, positive, focused manner in their everyday life. So when we met with the MTSS team, so each principal was able to form their MTSS team. Mike approved us to have a 2-day intensive MTSS meeting this August. Very, very important, where we got everybody up to speed. During that time, we had them do an exercise where we asked them, okay, the preschool, the middle school, New Heights, Central, our senior high, what do you want your kids to know and understand when they leave your system? And next slide. Every single one, the dots are when there was a next slide, please. This is what they talked about. We want our kids to feel connected. We want them to have healthy relationships. We want to be innovative in our classrooms. We want to treat each other well. Notice on the right-hand side, those are the SEL competencies. They all fit. Next slide. So then we go to Central Middle School. What did they say? Well, we want to have core values that believe in our sense of belonging. We want our kids to feel safe at school. We want to develop strengths and talents. We want to be authentic in our interactions with our young people. We want to focus on their strengths. We want them to learn academic skills 100%. This is not absent of academic skills. This is an or, and I truly believe that if we're not focused on these things, the academics will suffer. I think they already are. We had discussion today about that. So really letting those Central Middle School teachers live into the things that they asked to be able to do and what they really want their students to come out of their school feeling and understanding. Senior high, you'll notice another theme. Here we go. We want them prepared. We want them to be able to collaborate and adapt to change. That's self-awareness, that's relationship skills, that's responsible decision-making. We want them to be connected. We want them to be vulnerable and creating experience and being positive. And then we want them to make statements that they're seen and heard and respected. And we want to show them empathy. And then we want them to leave here career and college ready. So this idea that social emotional learning is a separate entity from the work of academics is not accurate. It's all embedded together, and it's very, very good for our kids. And I've been incredibly proud of the MTSS teams in every building. I've been incredibly proud of the SEL teams. Each school now has 2 SEL leaders. They're responsible for the implementation at the school level. And it's been very positive to see what they're doing at the school level. This just, if we do MTSS right, if we truly do it, we're working through this in a stage by stage implementation. It's slow and steady. If you notice, I've got a sticker I've been giving out, progress, not perfection. So you don't want to skip really fast and not do it the right way. So we're being slow and deliberate and thoughtful about the work. I'd rather have everybody know and understand it and do small things very, very well than try to do too much too soon and then not do it well. So I've really, the schools have really driven that process under the guide of the principals and the leadership with the teaching and learning. Next slide, please. That's okay. And so what are the ongoing responsibilities for this group and really for all of us? You'll notice on the little infographic, I have a nice little quote there about collective responsibility, really helping all of us understand that as a part of this district, we all have a responsibility to make sure that all of our kids are learning, they're learning well. When they're not learning, we're intervening. We're not just talking about the fact that they're not learning, but we're really intervening. And that means resources. That means time for us to meet and dialogue. The summertime was incredibly valuable. There's no way that work could have moved forward if we wouldn't have had those 2 days. And those 2 days were obviously approved by Mike, approved by you, but that was a robust time where there was a lot of learning about how we were going to set the stage for the fall. And then making sure that we're continuing to do all these things at all levels and really braiding this district from a pre-K through a 12. Not, we're all separate entities doing kind of our own thing and then not really talking to each other. Next slide. So a part of the Minnesota Department of Education, they gave an opportunity for districts to participate in a cohort. The women listed to the left, some come from the University of Minnesota, some come from our regional centers of excellence, some come from the Minnesota Department of Education. And that is a learning experience for our cohort. And I put something out there to those teams. I thought, my God, maybe 2 people will do this because they do it at a terrible time, right? Because they're a little separated from the work of kids in the buildings, right? They do it at a terrible time, but the information and the knowledge and the research is good. And then we have work time that's embedded into those meetings. So then we break into just East Grand Forks. So if Brian's over here, I'm in my office, then we have work to do. We've met outside of that time also, that is very targeted work, to make sure the implementation of this, as a system works. And I had like 8 or 9 people volunteer to do it out of our district team. So we're participating in that. I'm very proud of that. Because I really do believe that, it's excellent information and it's worthy of our time. Terrible timing, but we're all working to get together to get to all the meetings. And next slide, please. So this is like a big heavy forklift, because this is hard work. This is labor intensive. This isn't fancy and fluffy. It takes time. It takes time for us to be thinking about what our strengths are. It takes time for us to be thinking about where our gaps are. And when we find our gaps, it takes thoughtfulness to figure out what we're going to do about that. And we do that amidst a situation in education where we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough personnel, and there's all sorts of reasons why we can't do it. But there's still so many things we can do. And your support, the support of Mr. Colness in the work, is very, very important, because this can't be something, as long as I'm here, it can't be something we just try for a little bit and then we kind of walk away from, because it is research based. This is not a Jennifer Modine idea. I wish I could take credit for it because I wouldn't be working for you. I'd be a billionaire, but it's really, really good. Okay. So I just wanted you to know what this is. And then this one's a little bit off. Sorry, I should have dropped it down, but this is why things fail, because we don't plan accordingly. We don't implement it right. We don't have readiness, or at least there's nobody assessing the readiness to say, hey, are we ready to go to this next step? Because if we're not, then we should stay here and get better at this. And then making sure that making sure that the intensity of our interventions is done well and with consistency, and that we are making sure we're using our data properly. So those are important things. I remember having a very poignant conversation with Mr. Colness. I said, I don't want to fail at the work you've asked me to do. And he said, well, I don't want you to fail either. So I always keep the reasons for failure in front of me to make sure that we're staying far away from these things and we're doing the opposite, because we really are, our kids are worth it. It's what they need. It's what we need to do for them, because we all care about them. Next slide. So I never want to end with the failure, but that was a very, very fast overview, but I'm really glad that Mr. Colness asked me to come and speak to you about it, because it is a really big thing that we're doing, and we are making very good traction. The principals have been phenomenal to work with. I'm at every MTSS meeting across the district almost every time. Sometimes I miss them, but to support, to help, to coach, to be there, to really also build on their strengths. There's so many good things that all our schools are doing working together. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, but that's kind of the state of MTSS.
Questions?
Yeah, I have to leave early, but I do have a question.
Sure.
So you've done a tremendous job. Looks like there's a lot of stuff going on here. You went through it very well. But the things I picked out is, how much time are the teachers spending on this? Because obviously the teachers have a ton of stuff on their plate, and we
Right.
hear that a lot.
Right.
So I'm going to ask, how much time are they spending on it? Is it enough time with the PLCs? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
Because the last thing we want is, the PLCs are there for a reason, obviously, but
Yeah.
how much is being thrown on the plate afterwards?
This is part of that process. So when you think about the umbrella, the PLCs and their time there it's not a separate thing. It's how everything hits underneath. So that time in the PLC process is for them, that is protected. That is one of the pillars of good multi-tiered systems of support. is making sure we're using that PLC time wisely, that they have time to do the work, to unpack the standards, to know what the essentials are. There's never enough time. We could always use more time.
So the recommended time for PLC is 60 to 90 minutes.
Yeah, and we're given, mhm.
And through our training with Compass that we're going through that she just described to you, I mean, they've laid it out pretty straight now, the state. It's that this is what it is. So, you know, it's great that we have early outs. It's once a month. Can we actually do the process the way it's meant to be?
Well, that's why I was asking.
It's almost
You know.
impossible.
You can't. And here's the other thing. But I don't want us to get so caught up, you know, in what we can't do that we don't do anything, but we always need more time. It's just, I understand it's a hard sell to the public because a lot of times folks don't understand the inside workings of a school and they still think, why are we getting out at 1:30? Like, what are they actually doing? And so part of this is to help people understand the work of what we are doing. And if you want to intervene well on the academic side, or even when we would have our student support team meetings, we do those once a month. Those start the minute the kids get off the bus, and then we start going through, we might have 6 kids we have to go through from, by the time the teacher hustles down from her classroom or his classroom, they get down there at 5 to 3. I've got till 3:45. So we're roughly 12 minutes a kid to figure out, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna intervene? Who's gonna monitor? You know, so that you're packing it in. It's still worthy of the time, but do I wish I had more time? I always wish I had more time with them, but we, you know, we do the best we can. But the idea that we are intervening is what the key is. So this idea for our educators is to make it all come together for them so they understand how it's a collective and offer the support. So excellent question. Yeah.
And just one quick thing, you heard about resource, you heard about resource. One thing that we did regionally, we worked with the Council of Collaboratives. I worked really hard with them. We applied for a $10 million grant over the next 5 years, which bring $50 million into the region. We get it. For East Grand Forks, if we do land that grant, it was 1.3 million each year for 5 years. That would also help.
Thank you, Matt.
Nancy, you want to mark him out at 6:15? Any other questions for Jennifer, board members? Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you, all of you.
All right, let's move on. I don't have any other reports except 4.4 committee reports. So
Yeah, and I'll just go through those quickly. Negotiations wise, we were scheduled to meet with the paraprofessionals about a week ago, and due to some unforeseen circumstances, that meeting was postponed. Right now, they have inquired if we could meet on the 20th of October, and we'll have to get confirmation regarding that. The Policy Review Committee has not met. Health and Safety Committee met on the 4th of October. Those minutes were shared with you and with the entire staff, so I won't go through those tonight, but it's good to get together. We meet quarterly, and we try to make progress on the safety, all of the safety concerns that come forward. Transportation Committee is scheduled to meet. I know Debbie set that meeting for noon on Friday. Right now, we have some needs for future purchases of whether it be buses or 14-passenger Suburbans. The big question is, can we get them? You know, there are districts right now that are waiting, you know, a year to a year and a half, and it's still not for sure if they're getting, you know, the buses or type 3s that they've ordered. So we need to get together and plan and probably get some things in place. So if we do have needs for next year, we're at least getting, you know, some things ordered and approved by the board. And last but not least, Facilities Committee. If you could see me afterwards, I know that's Lindsay and Eric. It'd be nice to set up a time here. We just have some things we want to plan out, and you know, we've done a nice job over the last few years of getting some things ironed out in our buildings, but we do have some needs that we would like to talk about from a facility standpoint. So that is all I have for the committee reports. Any questions?
all right, moving on to 5.0 is the consent agenda. Does anybody want anything pulled from the consent? All right, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve everything in the consent agenda as uploaded in the board book.
I'll move.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda carries. 5.1 is the approval of minutes for the September 12th, 2022 regular school board meeting. Those are also attached in board book. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll
second.
Wasn't that part of,
That's
that was part of
it.
the consent?
Oh boy, never mind. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. We approved that, didn't we? All right, moving on to 6.0, opportunities for citizens to speak on items not on the agenda tonight. There are none. So 7.0 is to approve the agenda. Doesn't look like we're adding anything. Mike, you don't want that robotics coordinator added tonight?
We can wait till the next meeting. Fine. That'll give you more time to review that information.
All right, so the agenda is uploaded into board book. I will make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. All right, questions or discussion on the agenda? All those in favor signify by stating aye. Anybody opposed? Agenda carries. 8.0 is district business. 8.1 is the final reading of policies 600 through the 700 series. Superintendent Colonus? This is just
Nope, should be the,
our
should be the
final
should be the
steps.
final one here tonight. Final steps is third and no recommended changes.
Just need a motion and a second.
I'll second.
All right. Questions or discussion on the final reading policies for the 600, 700 series? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.2 is the second reading of policies 800 through 900 series. Those are also uploaded in the board book. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the first reading of the selected policies in 800, 900. Questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.3 is to approve the Form A for the Minnesota High School League Grant. This is something we do every year, so we can fill out the MSHS grant. So I just need a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion?
We need a roll call on this one?
Nope.
No.
All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.4 is to set the truth and taxation hearing date. Superintendent Colness stated earlier in his report that that'll be at our December 12th meeting. And it happens at 6 o'clock. So if we're in the middle of the meeting, we'll recess our meeting and then open up the truth and taxation. So I'll make a motion to set that date. Questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor of setting the truth and taxation hearing date signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.5 is to approve the Ricky White contract. We heard from Soraya in her report that it'd be the same as last year, and that's also uploaded into board book. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.6 is donations to the school district.
I'll make a motion to approve the following donations to the East Grand Forks School District. All these donations are from Steve and Rosalind Gander. Thank you to them. It's a total of $3,000, $1,000 to the music department, $1,000 to football, $500 to boys and girls tennis for the total of $3,000.
Questions or discussion? Again, thank you to Mayor Gander and his wife. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 9.0, we got to pay the bills.
I'll move to approve the payment of K-12 bills, numbers 123,425 through 123,578, and EFTs in the amount of $1,055,732.02.
Questions or discussions on the bills that have been uploaded into board book? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 10.0 is board member comments. Lindsay? Eric?
Nope, nothing done.
Tom?
I'm good, thanks.
I just have a few, certainly want to recognize Coach Devine for 37 years of service or 400 wins. Wish good luck to all the spring teams that, or excuse me, the fall teams that are participating in whether they're tournaments this week or upcoming tournaments. Good luck to everybody. So that's all I have. 11.0 is the next regular school board meeting is going to be scheduled for November 14th at 5:30. And we'll canvass the votes at that time. I think last time they were late, so we may have to, we're gonna have the meeting on the 14th, but if the county doesn't get them done in time, we may have to sneak one in right after that following Monday. We'll be in contact, or Nancy will be in contact with the auditor, so. All right, 12.0 is, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye.
Aye.